We answer your questions.
We spent close to $50,000 in the first 3 months.
We head to Wakerley for an install.
Making decisions.
And Phoebe chats with Anne Fidler from McGrath Estate Agents.
So people can see how their family can interact with all the different spaces.
Welcome to Foxy TV, episode 73. Welcome back everyone, thanks for joining us again. I was away Monday and Tuesday this week, and today, Friday, I'm in the warehouse putting Foxy TV together. So what you're about to watch occurred on Wednesday and Thursday, the 22nd and 23rd of July. Let's get into it. The team had an install in Norman Park and a couple of pack-ups. I met Phoebe over at Newmarket where she had a chat with Anne Fidler from McGrath Estate Agents.
So we're here today at 15 Treville Street in Newmarket. We saw this one not very long ago. Cody's going to pop up a bit of a feature onto Facebook, but we're here with Anne Fidler, who is the agent for this one. We've been working with Anne for about almost over 2 years now.
Yeah, three.
Oh my goodness, that's so long.
Yeah.
And we've had an amazing outcome with this one. And I just wanted to have a bit of a chat.
Okay.
So, this particular property, you knew this was a special one.
This is a great house, it's got a beautiful feel to it.
Yeah.
Lovely owners, and they had moved to another house, and I said this really needs to have some styling in it so people can see how their family can interact with all the different spaces.
Yeah.
So it was great. We worked well together to sort of work out, just styling certain places and parts of the house.
And using pieces of the owners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So I think this one in particular with the floor plan, and you'll see when Cody does a bit of a walkthrough, you walk through the front door, through the formal living, through the dining, into the back section of the home, which then opens out, and that was your favourite part.
That was.
Yes, the way that it opens out, beautiful living space for a flat backyard, and it's sold.
It's crazy. We had, over 30 groups through in half an hour, 4 offers, and the price we achieved was probably the best price and outcome. We got their dream figure, which was great. They were thrilled.
And during current conditions, even.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Big strong demand for this. This is very family friendly, going out to this flat backyard. It's what everyone wants.
And good spot.
Great spot.
Yeah. So with styling as a whole, we sold a lot of properties for you. So little property, like units, townhouses, homes, ones that people are still living in, ones that are now vacant.
Yep.
So your philosophy on styling, every home can do with it? Because we don't come through every home for you.
No. I mean, look, some homes the people have it all set out and decked out and what have you, but sometimes we've done just partial style. I think you're picking up a partial style that you've done for me just recently.
Yeah.
This home, because the lounge dining and the entry, you needed to make that impact so people could see how the spaces worked.
Yeah.
So what I find sometimes is people can't visualise how the lounge will fit, or will their dining room table fit, because they think, it's too small. But once you put a table there, they can actually see the size and space.
That happened here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that dining room.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it was lovely to chat.
Thank you.
Anne's always available. She's got a social media. We'll link her through as well. But stay tuned for Foxy TV.
Good morning from Wakerley. Lovely. For today's install. Nice home. How many bedrooms is this one?
We've got 3 bedrooms, but we're only doing 2 of them today.
2 of the 3?
Yep.
Definitely 3. It's a nice home.
Yeah. Very tropical.
Yep, so an install on the east side of Brisbane out in Wakerley.
Making decisions.
So Janessa, we're nearly done here. It's all looking good, but you're having a few issues, lots of holes on the walls.
Yes, this one has quite a few hooks and nails in the wall, so we're trying to cover up as much as possible. But then we'll try and take the other ones out, but we don't want to leave too many holes in the walls, so.
Let's have a quick look at the end result. The rest of this week's episode is dedicated to Q&A. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions through Instagram. It goes for a little more than 10 minutes and we're going to cover some of the following topics. So home staging startup costs, what Jake and Phoebe did prior to Foxy home staging, do we style master wardrobes, how to know when to hire someone, where do we buy out the clear bags that we use to transport linen and cushions, how long does it take to plan an install and how long do we like to spend doing an install, what's the average time, how long do we keep our stock before looking to sell it or throw it out or move on, and relevant for today as it is raining out there, what do we consider when doing installs and pack-ups in rainy weather? Let's get into it. Startup costs and how much furniture you guys started with. I don't know where you want to take this, but...
This is like how long is a piece of string sort of question.
Alright, so when we started...
Depends on your business model.
When we started, we were hiring everything. We quickly made the decision to buy everything that I could fit in the car because it was just me to start with. So all of the accessories, the fluff and the artwork, we started buying that stuff. So we didn't start purchasing the bigger pieces of furniture until it would have been like a year in.
No, it was less than that. It was only probably 3 or 4 months until we started getting things like bedside tables.
I didn't feel like that.
Again, it was still smaller stuff that could fit in a van, so we didn't need a truck early on.
So what would you? So before we started buying furniture, we would have purchased.
So for us personally, I think there's two answers. So our answer is that when you started, I was still working full time, so we had a second wage to support us. We spent close to $50,000 in the first 3 months on cushions, accessories, artwork. It was all the small stuff, plus some things like bedside tables, and those smaller sort of pieces of furniture. So we spent probably about that in the first 3 or 4 months, and then we just kept spending from there, whatever kind of profit we were making.
That made it quite an affordable way to ramp up into buying furniture, because then furniture, whilst it was it's a bigger upfront cost, the payback is better. So
well, it lets us build a team.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. If you're hiring all of your furniture, obviously you don't need to spend the big money up front, but it's a lot harder because you need a lot more volume, a lot more work to actually earn enough to bring on it and build a team.
But then again, the behind it, they might not want a team.
No, that's my point. It depends on the business model, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest components.
Long-winded way to say depends on how you're going to set up your business.
Yeah.
From Corey Ando, the weekly costs to keep the business going.
I'll give you our answer, so what it looks like for our business, but again, this is depends on your business, because obviously the costs that we're talking about that you have to cover, the two biggest ones are your wages, so your people, and your warehouse rent costs. So it really depends on how big a space you've got or need and how many people you have. So for us here right now, we have, so Cassie's on leave, so taking her out of the equation, we've got 4 full-time people excluding Phoebe and I, and we've got the 2 warehouses at the moment, and our kind of break even to cover those costs, plus some other small bits and pieces, like there's obviously insurances and accounting, bookkeeping,
work cover,
a whole heap of other things. We know that we need to do at least 2.5 jobs, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 jobs to kind of cover that.
The average time to spend on a house during an install?
As little as possible.
To be as efficient as we can. So that's the whole the way that we all operate. So a lot of the planning, most of a property is we'd spend more time planning a property and everything back here in the warehouse than we do on site installing a property. So we would work on about a 2-hour time frame, 2 to 3 hours, depending on the size of the property. A unit will get that in less than an hour, but for a 4 or 5 bedroom home with a couple of living areas, we're looking at 2 to 3 hours, and then that changes also if there's people living in there. So we work on a 2-hour time frame, multiple stylists on site, the removalists are on site with us helping us hang the artwork, so that's how we can pump it out that fast.
What did you guys do before the business?
I worked in the corporate world, so in finance for a couple of different companies, but essentially financial analyst, which is a very broad way of putting it, but building Excel models and valuing companies, those sorts of things.
Which is why you still have fun.
Which is why I'm an Excel nerd and I like looking after all the numbers and business side of things.
And I was in a medical background. I was a radiation therapist in cancer care, doing my PhD, which I didn't finish in the end.
You got close.
I got close, which is really sad. I got close, I stopped and decided to come here. But the more common, I guess, the relating factor is that we did some developments, renovated a property, subdivided, did a development on the back, designed a townhouse, and got people through to style them, and that's how we were introduced to styling. So that's where it's come from.
Do you style big master wardrobes?
No. So we can. We don't standardly quote to do that. If there is a beautiful walk-in robe, we'll take in a couple of plush dressing gowns or a couple of white shirts, but they're just from Target. We don't have any stock to go and put in designer brand bags or anything like that. For us, the return on investment's not there for a client. So
you've put your own shoes from home in a wardrobe.
Yeah, I was asked. The client said he had these. He'd gone to the expense of putting like these shoe holes in, but with them not having anything in there, you didn't realise they were shoe holes. So he asked if I could bring a pair of your shoes and a pair of my shoes to put in there. So I did.
How do you know when it's the right time financially to level up and hire someone?
For us, there's never been a perfect time.
Well, for us, it's kind of been as soon as we think we can afford it, based on how we're tracking. Projected and how we've kind of, obviously where the bank account's sitting. But that's because as a business, we've always wanted to grow quickly. We wanted a bigger team. So whenever we felt like we could.
When you look back, like when we put out a position for the Janessa's role, that's because I was having Ali, and it was a period of like 3 months until I was going to go on leave, have a C-section and be out for a bit. So I put out Janessa's role, and Candy applied, and Candy was fantastic. Her application was great, and so we created space for a second role as well, and that helped us grow. It helped be less stressful without me being here. So we've always, and then when Steve came on board, that was another opportunity that sort of made sense to bring him in as a full-time staff member rather than outsourcing. So it sort of balanced those costs out. So there's been a lot of opportunities that have presented themselves, which we have financially made it work. And then in the long run, it's been a fantastic decision.
I think if your intention is to grow a team eventually, try and do it as soon as you feel comfortable. As soon as you've kind of got the work behind you and a bit of a track record.
The key is to make sure that then you use your time well to bring in more work. So if I get in another stylist, that needs to free me up to then work on agent relationships, to work on client communication, to make sure that role is enabling me to then bring in more work. I think that's been the key for us.
Yep.
A quick one from Smuck Property Styling. Where do you buy your clear bags from to transport cushions?
Well, Smuck Property Styling, her name's also Phoebe, so hi Phoebe. That's from IKEA, the Dimper bags. Dimper. They're like $8 each, something like that.
$6 $6.
You can order them online and they're there to deliver. So they're fantastic. Disclaimer though, we have found the last lot that we've bought have not been as sturdy as the initial. They are breaking a bit easier.
We'll keep buying them.
Yeah, we will. They are awesome for efficiency to be able to see what's in there, but they have been breaking a bit easier. So,
how long does it take you to plan an entire 3 or 4 bedroom home install?
So, furniture-wise, I sort of start thinking as soon as the job locks in, if there's any sort of unique characteristics for the home, or if it's a high-end home, that sort of thing, I start thinking about the property when it locks in. So if I need to order anything in advance, that's when that would happen. But as far as the tangible planning, that starts, so basically today, 1:30, I got in at 8 o'clock, 8:30 this morning, and I have selected 2 5-bedroom properties, both with 3 living areas, and that's the furniture as well as the accessories, everything like that has all been finalised just this morning. So 5 hours to do 2 properties. So we've got a huge amount of selection options up there, and yeah, we don't spend heaps. We spend enough time to get it done, but it's not wholly time consuming.
Rainy day installs. Any tips for installing in the rain?
Avoid it.
We've been lucky. We haven't had any really crazy rainy days.
We had the cyclone that that was before you even started.
I was going to say.
We had a cyclone come down, and I had 2 installs booked in that day, but then they ended up cancelling because obviously it was cyclonic. So I had 3 consults that day, and they also cancelled. So aside from that, we haven't really been affected. But basically, we put pads down. One of the boys would run the furniture to their house with their shoes on, but then we take shoes off inside the house. I know there's workplace health and safety aspects to consider for some as well, but there's a lot of care that I guess it's a component. If their shoes are wet, they might slip, so that you've got the same aspect either way. But that's the way that we operate. The girls will take the buckets in again, shoes off once you're inside, and then just making sure the furniture's sort of covered with a pad, or if you use plastic.
But that's assuming we're going ahead, which we do, but that's probably a good point to make as well. We just assume that we're going to make it work.
Yeah.
Unless it's, pretty extreme, cyclone or...
We have pushed some pack-ups before.
Pack-ups and things that don't have to be that day, we'll try and move them if we can, but often when it's raining heavy enough, then it's probably like a week-long thing, or it could be more than one day. So if we can get it done on the day, we do it, and we know it's going to take a little bit longer, and we
The
just be
thing
careful.
to consider is that if it's raining too heavy that we can't install, then normally photography is not going to happen the day either, because they don't take photos with the rain. So it's not just us that's affected, there's a flow-on effect.
How long do you keep stock and do you sell it?
We actually just sold some pieces that I bought at the start that haven't been
so
used.
we're just over 3 years in business now.
Yep.
And we're only just now starting to sell a few pieces, but for the most part, there's obviously been breakages or damaged goods that have fallen away across that time, but in general, 3 years, the stuff we bought at the start is mostly still here.
We have had a sofa fade that did get recovered, so we will do what we can to make a piece last the distance. Sensible as far as that goes. We get stuff professionally cleaned to make sure that it's lasting longer, particularly armchairs that are getting fake tan on them. But there are pieces now that we're finding that I haven't used because I don't love them as much, or they just don't work, or they weren't the right size or good enough quality, which we've just sold off via Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace, which Cody does, or we put them into our staff tea room, which is what we're going to do at our new warehouse, transition in some of our armchairs, the dining tables and dining chairs that we just don't use, so that the staff have something to sit at. So.
Yep. There were a couple of questions that weren't answered in this week's episode because they're questions that would take a long time to explain and probably are worthy of an episode itself. So keep an eye on future episodes where we will look to answer those. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.